The story of the heavyweights, a look at boxing today on PM East, 11:15 on Channel 13.
Good evening, I'm Royal Parker, your Esso reporter with today's news, brought to you by Humble Oil and Refining Company, America's leading energy company, and your nearby Esso dealer. And now, the news. On the international scene, the United States and Britain have withdrawn their chief negotiators from the resumed nuclear test ban talks in Geneva. The two men are returning home tomorrow. The talks are stalemated over Russian demands for an uncontrolled, indefinite test ban. Elsewhere, violence scarred Santo Domingo today when a mob learned that President Balaguer had not resigned. As a general strike against the Dominican Republic went on for the third day, the streets of Santo Domingo continue today to be the scene of conflict between commando troops and crowds of demonstrators. The threat of violent clashes increased from hour to hour. Mobs of jeering, chanting opponents of President Balaguer rove through the downtown area. Soldiers fired shots into the air and tossed a number of tear gas bombs, trying to keep order. But each time the mobs are turned back, they soon form again in other locations. The tanks were called into action today to block a crowd of 1,000 strikers who tried to storm the gates of the presidential palace. A rumor had spread that Balaguer was going to resign, but more tear gas let loose outside the gates gave the crowd some reason to doubt the rumor. At least one person was killed in today's disorders, a demonstrator hit by Tommy gun bullets from a speeding bus. Leaders of the general strike insist that the work stoppage will not be called off until Balaguer resigns. The president says he won't quit and will stay in office until elections are held next May. The struggle for power still rages in Santo Domingo. United States communist leaders are scattering. The organization is being dismantled in apparent efforts to avoid federal prosecution for failing to register as Soviet agents. Its leaders apparently have gone underground, leaving only a troika of old-time commissars behind to face the Justice Department. The Justice Department has promised prompt action against party leaders for refusing to comply with the 1950 Internal Security Act. In Washington, communism and world trade were discussed this afternoon. British Ambassador Sir David Ormsby Gore told the National Press Club luncheon in Washington today, free world trade policies must be brought into harmony or victory will go to communism. Asked about the possibility of a unified Western Europe, he said,
extremely good. We are entering into this particular negotiation to enter into the common market, which will lead to strengthening of the unity of Western Europe, in all good faith. We are not holding anything back. We are not saying, well, we want to do it for economic reasons, but the political part of it we dislike. We have come to the conclusion, as I said in my remarks, that the danger that is threatening us in the world is so great that even though it may cause a certain amount of uneasiness in the United Kingdom, uneasiness among other members of the Commonwealth, we have got, all of us, to make certain sacrifices for the general good. And we, therefore, are negotiating, as I say, in perfectly good faith and mean to be full partners with the others in Western Europe. Now, it's my impression that if we succeed, and if the other countries who are applying for membership succeed in their applications, we will have established a unified Western Europe. We will have established it. And I would think that this would come about not only in our lifetime, but in the next 5 years.
A late item on the local scene, the coadjutor Archbishop of Baltimore, Lawrence J. Sheen, has issued the following statement. Archbishop Francis P. Keogh of Baltimore has suffered a recurrence of his 1953 heart trouble, and it has been deemed advisable by his personal physician, Dr. George Schreiner, that he be treated directly under his care at Georgetown University Hospital in Washington, D.C., where special facilities are available. More news after this word from Esso. Space scientists are poking and probing a Mercury capsule tonight. They're looking for answers that will decide when Marine Lieutenant Colonel John Glenn, Jr. will make the first orbit of Earth for the United States. The capsule, which carried a tiny chimp twice around the globe yesterday, is being dismantled tonight at Cape Canaveral. In New York City, the end of a long journey. A sorrowful journey comes to an end as New York of a long journey. A sorrowful journey comes to an end as New York's Governor Rockefeller returns from New Guinea, his son Michael still missing. Rockefeller had taken a personal part in the search which began 2 weeks ago. Although little chance remains now of finding Michael, the governor hopes a miracle may bring him back. Before going to his estranged wife, he had this to say. Rockefeller had this to say. Michael had made the trip once before the time that the craft had the accident, and things could happen. He said his son's last trip was one of the most exciting experiences of his life. Michael was the strongest swimmer, so he attempted to make sure while Dr. Wassing remained. It was typical of Michael, said Rockefeller, that he knew no fear. He had...
Capurians who were with them swam to shore, but they couldn't tell whether they got there. These two boys, to show you how loyal the people are in that area and how devoted these two boys swam what they estimated to be about 6 hours to get to shore, and then walked and then took canoes, and in 11 hours got to the village where they had started and where they could report to the Dutch. Michael and Dr. Wassing collected the things that were floating away from the canoe, put them on. They stayed with the canoe until the next morning. It was 11:30 when it started, and the next morning it was 7. They were out about 11 miles. They did not know whether the boys had gotten there, and therefore Michael decided that he, being the best swimmer, had better make a try for the shore in order to get help, but otherwise they'd just drift out to sea.
On the local scene, Baltimore integration leaders tonight said they have gained strong support from other student integration groups and said they will stage another round of sit-in demonstrations this Saturday in the Baltimore area. A look at the local weather picture after this final word from SO.
Here's a timely tip from Happy. The lower the temperature, the more you need SO Extra for quick starts, faster warm-up, more power quicker. Switch to SO Extra at the SO sign, the world's first choice.
The weather picture for Maryland and vicinity, with the thermometer going up and down. Tonight it'll be fair and cold, with low down to 27 degrees in the suburbs, up to 35 degrees in downtown Baltimore. Tomorrow, some cloudiness, but mostly sunny and mild, high approximately 55 degrees. That's the weather picture. Sunny Jim and his inimitable brush paint the sports picture next on Channel 13. That's the up-to-the-minute news brought to you by Humble Oil and Refining Company, America's leading energy company, and your nearby SO dealer. Until tomorrow, when Keith McVie returns, this is Royal Parker, your SO reporter, saying good night and have a good day tomorrow.
George Ballin reports.